Welcome to the Haven Collective. I'm JR, and this is the Beacon Bit. Today we're reflecting on Revelation 21 and 22. You might remember during the first Trump administration when the president announced that he wanted to build a wall between the U.S. and Mexico. And there were a number of differing responses from Christian groups. One of the more prominent evangelicals, Franklin Graham, the son of evangelist Billy Graham, came out to defend President Trump's plan, saying, "Heaven has a wall around it, so we should build the border wall." And he was referencing this text, Revelation 21 and 22, to justify building a wall to keep people out of the U.S. Now, I wanted to bring that up because Mr. Graham was deeply misusing Revelation 21 and 22, as we're going to see in a moment. And I think it's important for us to be aware of how people are using the scriptures and when it's being used in blatantly evil ways, the way Mr. Graham did to support President Trump's border wall policy. We're in a series right now called Heaven is a Place on Earth, and we've been exploring what it means to live in the good news of Jesus' resurrection, this new sort of way of living, this new reality, this new way of being human that was inaugurated on that first Easter morning. We've been in the book of Revelation because the book of Revelation is a very creative and picturesque guide to some early Christians who were struggling to live out the way of Jesus in a culture that was hostile to the way of Jesus. So we've been looking at what John the Revelator told them to do, some of the advice that he gave them about how to live well and how to live out heaven's reality in their present, even as they were suffering for it. So in a similar way, we've been looking at what it looks like for us to live out the good news of heaven now, even as we're anticipating Jesus' return to put an end to evil and injustice once and for all. And so last week, Pastor Sonia showed us that the Revelation ends with this wedding of heaven and earth, where heaven descends as this beautiful city and becomes one with earth, and we finally see everything as it was meant to be. The reading for this week is actually taking us deeper into a lot of those. It's like a tour of the heavenly city. So what I want to do this week in the Beacon Bit is something a little bit different. I want to reread with you the vision that John has of the holy city. And then I want to point out a couple of things, but largely I want to turn us over to our Beacon conversations so that we can kind of take these various things that John sees one at a time and discuss what it looks like for us to live out that reality now. Because remember, this is sort of like reverse engineering the future. If we see what heaven and earth together are going to look like, then we can begin living into that truth and that reality now. So let's read again in Revelation chapter 21, beginning in verse 22. I'm going to take my time with this, read it slowly for you. And as I read, just kind of pay attention to some of the imagery. What are things that catch your ear? Or if you want to close your eyes and imagine that you're seeing it, what are some things that catch your eye as you're touring the heavenly city? And then we're going to go into our beacons and discuss what those might look like for us to live them out now. John says, "I saw no temple in the city, for the Lord God Almighty and the Lamb are its temple. And the city has no need of sun or moon, for the glory of God illuminates the city, and the Lamb is its light. The nations will walk in its light, and the kings of the world will enter the city in all their glory. Its gates will never be closed at the end of the day, because there is no night there. And all the nations will bring their glory and honor into the city. Nothing evil will be allowed to enter, nor anyone who practices shameful idolatry and dishonesty, but only those whose names are written in the Lamb's book of life. Then the angel showed me a river with the water of life, clear as crystal, flowing from the throne of God and the Lamb. It flowed down the center of the main street, and on each side of the river grew a tree of life, bearing 12 crops of fruit, with a fresh crop each month. The leaves were used for medicine to heal the nations. No longer will there be a curse upon anything, for the throne of God and the Lamb will be there, and his servants will worship him. And they will see his face, and his name will be written on their foreheads. And there will be no night there, no need for lamps or sun, for the Lord God will shine on them, and they will reign forever and ever." Now, the one thing that I did want to point out was where Mr. Graham was abusing this text, because it is true that the city has walls. In fact, just before our reading, it talks about how the wall around the city was made of jasper, which is a beautiful stone. But hear what it said again. Its gates will never be closed at the end of the day because there is no night there. And all the nations will bring their glory and honor into the city. That's what the book of Revelation says. The whole point of talking about how there's a wall and gates is not to say that we should all build walls, but it's to say, hey, you're used to, especially in the ancient world, how every city had a wall around it. And it was for protection because everyone had to be afraid of their neighbors. But in this new reality where heaven and earth come together, no one ever has to be afraid again. And the gates of the city will never ever be closed because all of the nations will come in. Again, like we talked about a couple of weeks ago, every nation and tribe and language will be represented there because that's part of God's good plan. Now, that's just one example of something that comes out of this text. There's so much more to talk about. And I'd love to, again, not talk about only how this resonates with us and the things that we find beautiful and challenging about it, but also what it looks like for us to put some of those things into practice as a church community. I cannot wait to talk about this in our beacons. I look forward to that. And until then, grace and peace be with all of you.